everybody, Gina DeLuca here. All right, so today we're gonna have a little fun with the spinner. I'm going to be doing a spiral straight pour inspired by a bouquet of flowers that was just a really pretty combination of colors. I tried to match those colors. I'm using the DecoArt satin enamels, and what happens when you add white to a color, it makes it more pastel, and the roses were much brighter colors, so I've kind of tried to boost that saturation a little bit, but it's closer. It might require a little more experimenting color-wise. The colors I'm using, I have for my background Liquitex Basics Phthalo Green. For the purple here, I have Basics in Dioxazine Purple. For this pink, this is Magenta, and I added a bit of the Artist Loft Neon Pink to kind of make it pop a little more. This orange is a mixture of Basics Cadmium Yellow Deep Hue, a drop, the tiniest little bit of Carmine Red, and that's Arteza Carmine Red. And we have the Artist Loft Neon Orange and Artist Loft Neon Yellow. So that was actually like 4 colors mixed in there to try to get that orange a little brighter. And this yellow is the Basics with the Cadmium Yellow light, actually Cadmium Yellow Deep with the Neon Yellow. These paints, these 4 are going to hopefully be my cell makers, and they all have the DecoArt Americana Decor Satin Enamels in it. So that will be 50% satin enamel and 50% whatever other color you're mixing with it. So if I'm doing a ½ ounce of satin enamel, I'm going to do a ½ ounce of whatever other paint I'm mixing with it. And that mixture is then, it's 1 part paint to 2 parts Floetrol. So if I did a ½ ounce of the satin enamel and a ½ ounce of the Basics, that's 1 ounce. 1 part paint to 2 parts Floetrol means 1 ounce of paint, 2 ounces of Floetrol. And then that would give me 3 ounces of paint, which then gets thinned. I use a concoction of 90% water and 10% Floetrol. You can use just water. I just find that I'm less likely to over thin if I use the water with the Floetrol mixed in. So again, 10% Floetrol, 90% water. The consistency that we're going for, this is about a 2 on my consistency scale. It is making a mound, but it disappears quickly. And it is coming off of my stick in a nice, even, thin stream. It's not getting thinner and then thicker. If it does, that means that you have not mixed your paints thoroughly and you have some thinner spots. You don't want that. Before we get started, have you seen the Fluid Art inspiration cards? If you have, you can fast forward about a minute, but if you have not, what we have are 52 cards. There are 42 technique cards, and each technique card has an associated video here on YouTube that gives you all of the information that you need, the exact paint brand, color, consistency, the recipe, and of course the technique, all of the things that I can't fit on a card. This is a picture of the painting in that video. This box contains a tip for this particular technique, and here at the bottom you have the color palette that was used in this painting. And then these 2 boxes can be used together as the basis of a 2-color palette, or you can add to those colors. And there are also 8 bonus color palette cards. Each one has 5 color palettes. You can use all of the colors or just some of the colors. Mix and match the bonus color palette cards with the technique cards, and you have more combinations than you could ever paint in a lifetime. These are available at my website, ginadeluca.net, and also at amazon.com. Okay, the first thing I'm gonna do is put some of my background color in my cup. I'm gonna do just about 2 ounces there. So that the background paint is the one that's not going to sell. All of these should sell. Sometimes if these have been open for a while, it might not sell as well. It has kind of been a minute. We'll see what happens. It'll be pretty either way. And then I'm going to lay down my base coat. So the reason that we lay down a base coat, I just remembered that I did not level this canvas. Oh boy, that's a rookie mistake. What am I gonna do now? Tell you what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna scrape this off and I'm gonna level this canvas because it will be ruined. It will not dry properly. I will be right back. Okay, so what I did was scrape this paint back into the cup, and I just laid down some paper towels on the piece so I didn't get paint all over my level. But if I had skipped that step, this was so unlevel, the paint would have just been rolling off of the painting as it dried. The whole thing would have been ruined. It is absolutely worth scraping your base coat off if you forget to level your canvas. Absolutely worth it, because you could wind up with your most favorite painting ever and it is going to end up all on your table as it slowly slides off of your canvas over time. So we all make mistakes. I'm a little rusty. The music scene is going to slow down significantly. This is what we call the dry season. Between Halloween and St. Patrick's Day, everything really slows down quite a bit. Lots of places cancel music altogether. So I will have much more time to dedicate to painting, and I plan on doing some stuff I haven't done in a while. I might pull out my watercolors a bit, do some more brush work. It's been a very long time. Actually, when I started painting acrylic pours was to do brush work over top of them, and then I just never did it because I was so fascinated with what was happening on the canvas. So the reason we lay down a base coat is so that our paints have something to slide around on, but also something has to stick to the canvas first. And if it is not your base coat, it is going to be the paint that hits the canvas first. That's going to be your puddle, your poured puddle. And some of the coolest stuff happens on the edges, and then you lose that option of keeping those edges because the paint will just roll over top of itself. Okay. I do want to make sure that I get the sides, and because this is a round canvas, these sides are puckered. It does make it a bit more of a challenge. So just using my little putty knife here is not going to cut it. I have to use my finger to really get it on there. If you have dry spots on the side, the paint won't roll over it as easily as it would if it was wet. So if you have parts that are wet and parts that are dry, it's not going to slide over the edge at the same rate. And so you might lose the shape of some of your cells because only half the cell went over. So it is better just to get her done ahead of time. I like to troubleshoot before there's trouble. All right, so now I'm going to put some paint in the cup. How do I decide what order the paints will be going in? I have found that when I do a straight pour, the color that I put in last, a small bit of that will end up at the bottom of the cup, which ends up at the center of the painting. So I like for there to be the most contrast between the first color in the cup and the last. So The yellow will be going in last. I'm going to pour this from up high. I'm going to let it sink. Hopefully the DecoArt paints are fresh enough. I like to check my consistency before I put it in the cup. It can thicken upon standing. So even if these didn't sell, the satin enamels will really help to keep color separation, so it should still turn out pretty darn cool, regardless of whether it makes cells or not. It is a very matte paint, and it really helps to keep that contrast between your background colors and your cell makers. Okay, that looks fine. Pouring from up high. If you find it intimidating to pour from up high, what you can do is practice in your sink with water. I used to be a bartender, so that is a natural thing to me. It comes easily. But if it does not come naturally to you, just practice in your sink with water. You will get used to it. It won't take long. Okay, I'm going to take what is left here in my cup and go over top, because I want all of the cell makers to be touching some of that background paint. That is how it makes cells. Although a great deal of this is going to just get spun off the canvas. Okay, so I am going to pour in the center. I'm going to spin slowly, pour quickly, and I'm going to go in a clockwise manner. Trying to stay as close to the center as I can. It can be a challenge. And as I get towards the end of the cup, I will get closer to the canvas and I will spin slower. I find if I do too many spins, it just looks like a ring pour and you lose your spiral. And hopefully there's still some yellow in there that I'm waiting for. Okay, once the yellow comes out, I like to do like a 1.5 turn. It's kind of the Fibonacci number. Okay, now I'm going to pull out old Bernie 2 times here and torch these bubbles. I see schmutz. Get the schmutz as soon as you see the schmutz. Get it out of there. It will only give you a headache later. Okay, torching the bubbles, and as I pop these bubbles, the paint so if there's a bubble in a layer that's underneath, say there's some yellow under there, and there's a bubble in the yellow, as it rises to the top, the bubble rises to the top, it brings that paint with it. And so as I pop them, you'll get these little cells, and hopefully what happens is the cells will grow because the matte paints have a hydrophobic effect when they are paired with a glossy paint, and the Liquitex Basics is a glossier paint than the satin enamels. Adding the satin enamels to the basics makes that particular paint more matte, and that's all you need. You just need it to be more matte, and it will push the glossier paint away. What is most important to me is that this is in the center. So I am going to be very OCD about that. I want that to be in the center. However, the rest of this spins off does not matter as much to me, because that's not going to be the focal point. Okay, so as I let these paints sit, I'm not getting the effect that I would usually get by this point. But I am getting some cells popping up here, and what happens is when I stretch this, and there's a lot of paint on this canvas, when I stretch this, probably most of this part is going to get spun off, and this center part is going to spread out, and then these cells will get bigger, and they look very glowy already. I see some cool things happening in these cells, and when I stretch it out, it's only going to get bigger and more beautiful. But this is where patience is imperative. The longer I let this sit, the bigger these cells get now. And then when I stretch them, they get even bigger. I could spin this now, I will get cells, but I will probably be getting a lot of pearl cells that pop up later. So these, if I just let these sit, they would probably wind up just looking like pearl cells, but because I'm going to stretch them out, they're going to wind up looking more like Boulder cells. I'm going to be continually adjusting this center until I feel comfortable that it is indeed the center. That feels pretty good, I think. And I have to keep it moving because this is on a spinner, it's not level. If I just let it sit, it will start to pull to one side. But this canvas has been leveled to the table. So once this is done, I'm going to pull it off the spinner and sit it on the table to how it's been leveled. Hi, Satchmo. Okay, and as this sits, more bubbles pop up. I'm just gonna keep popping them. But once I'm fully stretched out, I'm not gonna torch it anymore. See another cat hair. Thanks, Satchmo, for your contribution. Alrighty. Well, I think I have enough cool stuff going on in here to be interesting. I could let this sit a little longer and see what else develops, but I think I'm liking what's going on now. And I would like to keep some of that green too. So Let me just double check again that I am centered. Okay, I say it's time to give it a spin. You don't have to spin fast. If you've ever had a painting that wasn't level, you know how much paint can move over time. It'll get there. So, you know, if you're worried about using a spinner because it's going to make a mess, you know, this isn't flinging on my walls. This isn't even going out past the edge of these sticks. Controlled and contained. Just double checking that I'm still centered. Small adjustments. If I wanted to push one side off more than the other, say I wanted to lose this area here, I could push the canvas this way, and the centrifugal force would pull this side more. Kind of like if you're on one of those merry-go-round things, little at the playground, if you're in the middle, you get dizzy, but you don't get flung into the trees. If you're on the outside, you're getting launched. So it's kind of the same idea. This is taking on an unusual shape there. Let me see. Let me see if I can play around with that just a hair. Just give it a little bit more of a Nautilus type look and less of a grub. Okay, that feels better. So how much am I going to spin off? I don't know. I could stop here. I've certainly, you know, covered my edges. Do you want to keep in mind how much paint is on your canvas? You don't want too much. You don't want to risk it cracking. I could spin more and stretch this area out more. I do like the contrast that is going on here with these pinks and this green. So I think I might just leave it alone. Oh, decisions. All right, let me see. Let me see how much paint is still on here. Okay, I think I'm just going to leave this be. I like this green here on the edge. I don't want to lose that. So I'm going to take it off the spinner. I'm going to sit it how it's level and let it sit for a bit and do what it's going to do, because there will be more cells developing. 'Tis the nature. And I will bring you in for a close-up back in a few. Okay, here it is. This should be fully developed. I don't think anything else is going to be popping up. Lots of cells. Some interesting cells going on. I love that pink. That's why I didn't want to lose that area. That pink against that green is really popping. But that is what we have. I hope you learned something. I hope you enjoyed. Please do like, share, and subscribe and all that good stuff. That is Satchmo making that noise in the background. If you are subscribed, please make sure that you click the bell so that you receive notifications when I put up some new content. Yeah, I'm glad I did that to the center because it doesn't look like a grub anymore. It has more of a spiral effect. Yeah, so check out the description box for links to my PayPal tip jar if you feel so inclined, my website, GinaDeLuca.net, where you can find my art and music and the fluid art inspiration cards for sale. And you will find the links to my affiliates, DecoArt being one of them. You can purchase these paints through their website using the coupon code in the description box, and you will receive a percentage off. I will receive a commission at no additional cost to you. That's my favorite sell. I love that. Yeah, so that's for all of the affiliate links. I receive a small commission at no additional cost to you. That includes Amazon. If you buy a washing machine off of Amazon, I can get a commission. What else? What else is there? In the description box, you will also find the link to our Facebook group, Go Make Some Art. Join us there, post your masterpieces, ask your questions, get some inspiration. A good time is had by most. It is the internet after all. All right, y'all, that I think is it for me for today. I hope you have a beautiful day. Now go make some art.